Hi there, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. It's Central Time. It is time for updates from our little ecosystem, Intune ConfigMgr, Windows, drivers, the good stuff. Shall we get going, sir?
Absolutely, we shall.
All right. What an exciting week. Have you been, sir? All good?
All good. It has been an exciting week. It's been a busy week. I think everybody is now taking the time, at least here in the States, to prepare for a not so busy week next week.
Yes. Thanksgiving week is usually, I would say, more relaxed per se in that sense, because you still have to do a lot of things, but hopefully not so much work, more spending time with family and friends and getting that turkey perfect, stuff like
That's
that.
that's right. That's my plan.
Sounds good. I have seen your grilling cooking equipment outside there, so I have good hopes. Good hopes.
I hope to make you proud.
Sounds good. But as you can see, I have dressed up for the occasion. Yeah, it
Of
is
course.
Ignite Week. Started off this morning in Seattle, at least for the ones that are like us, following from uh, have the digital ticket, following online. I know there was some pre-day stuff running on yesterday, sessions and whatnot, but there have been a good chunk of announcements from Ignite today, and I figured we could chat a little bit about at least some of them.
I think that's a great plan.
It's not my worst idea, is it?
Not at all.
All right, let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen real quick. Entire screen number 2, kaboom. And here we are. That is not Ignite, that is other stuff. Here, it's going to open up a browser, a fresh one, and you are going to be excited about this. I'm sure of it, because they did officially announce this today.
Yes.
Cloud PKI. This has been hinted in many sessions throughout the fall. I mean, you've been talking about them since WP Ninja in September.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, this is one of those things that PKI is challenging. Certificates, I'll just say broadly, certificates are challenging
Yeah.
for anybody. So anything that we have that has the potential to make certificate management easier, especially on our endpoints, I'm excited about it. So I can't wait to get my hands on it.
I mean, just the text line here. I didn't cry, but it was close. Not having to deal with and the setup and proxies and whatnot. Just that alone would be a winner for sure.
Proxies, your worst nightmare.
Yeah, that and other SSL inspections is going to be the pain of me one day, I'm sure of it.
Well,
But
that
anyhow,
is very exciting that they've actually officially announced it
yeah,
this week.
that was good. Then, of course, they had the announcement about advanced analytics coming to Intune for, assist us in troubleshooting. So that looks good. I got excited about that. It's also good to see that was posted by Zach here. And for those of you that don't know that gentleman, he has also been behind on everything desktop analytics back in the day, and then endpoint analytics, and now apparently this.
Sounds like he has a thing for analytics.
Yeah, I mean, someone has to. So
That's
why
right.
not? Then there was an announcement today about enterprise app management through Intune as well. Has been one of the I wouldn't say Achilles heels, but some of the areas in Intune where you get a lot of comments and requests, can we get better application management on the platform? And apparently Microsoft have been hearing this as well. I've seen organizations tapping on or adding on third-party solutions like Liquidware and others on top of Intune to get more management. So it's nice to see that Microsoft is adding in some stuff on this area as well. Pretty cool. I even saw an announcement about adding in third-party application updates as well. They announced that today. I didn't quite see the pricing of it just yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be the usual $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 per user per month type deal. They start to bundle it with something. But I mean, all in all, it's pretty cool stuff coming out of Ignite.
And I'm sure that's just scratching the surface. I still have to dig into the big Ignite book of news myself. But of course, when I started to look at the table of contents, it was AI, AI, AI.
And Copilot.
That's right.
Again, AI, yeah.
Yep.
I saw this very welcome news, especially if you live in that region of the world. I'm able to start to see the 23.11 updates coming in the user interface. I opened, of course, up my Twitter or Intune tenant right away and hit Control F5 a few times, but I was not lucky. My tenant is over in Europe, so of course I was not on that list, but one never know.
I have to wait a few hours still, probably.
Yeah. But speaking of Book of Ignite, let's find that link. Or did you have it open by any chance? You can drop it to me in the chat.
Let me see if I do still have it open. I think I do. Let me drop that over to you.
Thank you, sir. I mean, they started to do this a few years back, release a collection of everything that is updated or news in Ignite. So happy to see that one for this year as well. But it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and if you hit that table of contents button in the top right and scroll down just a little there, you can see the largest section.
Yep, I hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. Oh, this one is interesting. Universal print, auto patch stuff. A lot of Defender things, of course. Yeah, a lot of fun. Good weekend reading, everyone. Good weekend read, everyone.
That's right. I might actually pull this out during Thanksgiving next week and recite it to my whole family.
Some light reading, yeah, it will be popular.
right after we're finished with the turkey, too. We'll see. It'll be a challenge to see who can stay awake the longest.
I have a feeling that your kids are gonna basically yell in unison, asking you to please keep quiet.
I think you're probably right. Maybe I'll put that idea on the back burner.
Yeah, I'll recommend it. On other news, not as fancy as Ignite, obviously, but just wanted to share with you guys that the PowerShell course, the free PowerShell course, the community version of it that we did last week here on the Academy, the recording is now available. So if that book doesn't get your curiosity cured, you can spend an hour and a half and learn about basically the career advantages and other benefits of learning a bit of PowerShell and where to start. Thinking of that everyday automation that helps us in our daily work. So recommend that one. So that was what I had on my little news list that I scrambled together here earlier today.
Well, I imagine that that's probably because you only had those few pieces of news, because somebody I know happened to spend the last week probably working on some delivery optimization statistics, which I might add you seemed to. So this was a part of this was something that you and I had worked on a little bit, like maybe a year ago, and I could not figure out how to get a specific set of stats, and damn it, you did it.
Well, stubbornness compensate for lack of skills.
This is awesome stuff. Do you want to bring up the 2 Pint blog?
I do. I'll be happy to. So I was spending some time. It wasn't the full week, but a good 4 days, including the weekend. Basically checking out how well Windows 11 23 H2, the latest update for Windows 11, would fare in terms of what's it downloading. And luckily, for my test I was doing, I was deploying 25 devices with Windows 11 23 H2. And then I just let them sit there logged in as a user and just monitor the traffic to see, okay, how many TCP connections are they actually doing through the firewall? And that was the metric that Andrew alluded to earlier. And also how much data that was downloaded over the firewall, depending on which type of setting I applied to those devices. And thankfully, one of the 2-pointers here, Phil Wilcock, he figured out a way to speed up that update process. I didn't have to wait so much. So I had a scheduled task that simply ran this one at login, and that made sure that the updates came down a little bit quicker. But long story short, if you don't do any setting at all, or just leave Windows as is, don't touch anything, any policy, nothing, these 25 machines were downloading a good 26 gig through the firewall. And they were dealing with a whopping almost 70,000 TCP connections through that firewall during that process. So firewall was pretty busy. And this was only from 25 machines. Imagine that I have upgraded 2,000. It adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then I started to apply some basic recommendations that we have published here on the 2-Pint blog before. And then I also added some new stuff that was sneakishly introduced with Windows 10, but not officially supported through Intune and other management stacks until Windows 11. But you can always smack in the registry key if you want. But long story short, there is an option in delivery optimization to tell Windows to ask around locally first with a discovery message, instead of always ask Microsoft, because you can guess what is causing many of those connections. It is this back and forth communication always. So I was able to get it down to about 34,000 connections. And the peer-to-peer efficiency was it was not the personal best, but it was close to a personal best. I have seen 91 before, but a whopping 89% peer-to-peer effectiveness, and that is pretty good, I might say. So anyhow, that was what I spent the last few days on.
That's fantastic. I mean, those results speak for themselves, right? I mean, you dropped connections by almost half. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was fun. All right. Do we have any questions? That is the question.
Well, we had hello from Matt, and actually Matt asking about your new blog and how to use it in their organization.
I mean, it goes back to, it depends on how you're managing delivery optimization, but I did put in a link here to the Intune recommendations because we have them up on our blog here. I was a post I did 2 years ago. But long story short, if you don't mind configuring a few policies on your devices, then you have to, well, if you do that, you will see that you will start to increase your performance or peer-to-peer effectiveness significantly. And this is a pretty good deal just for configuring a few policies. If I go to my blog here, I do have the equivalent settings for those of you who are still using a group policy to do this. They just name slightly different, but it's the same settings. And I did mention this option here also that you now can set the local discovery. So if you go to an updated ADMX template, so I recommend that you update your ADMX template to version 3, which supports both Windows 10 and Windows 11. We covered that in office hours before. But if you do that, you will find that you have them available. So if I go over to one of my labs here and check that policy that I was playing around with, this one, select the method to restrict peer selection. In that, there is now the local discovery option here. You can see the reference to the DNSD protocol that is being used for that discovery. So that was fun. I was actually using our own dashboard for a bit also to track this effectiveness. And if I allow this one to refresh, this is where I got some pretty good statistics from origin, meaning from Microsoft, versus from peers. From the original, 26 gig downloaded from Microsoft down to 3. Improvement, I say.
I would say so. So do you know how many devices that came down to first before the rest?
No, it's on a file basis.
Okay.
And there are a lot of... I played around a lot with basically asking... let's see what I can run. Yeah, you can check different event logs also to get an idea on how many apps that were actually installed and updated on the devices. And some of them were up in the 100 updates. And each of them, of course, is one or more files. There are some, so yeah, I'll say between 77 and 99 maybe updates per device. It's a good chunk of them. So it's not an exact science either. I mean, they are all the same. Why would they have a different? Well, they update differently. That's a little bit of process there. So, and I only let them run for 4 hours. I got tired after that. It's like
that's enough.
Yeah. Every test run was 4 hours. Like But I got to say some Witcher. That is good. I'm following season 3 on that one. So
very nice. Very nice.
Finally, yeah. So that was a good part of it.
That's right. Well, and this came out. There's a lot of great information that came out of it. On the two pint blog post for the Intune configurations, did you mention either last week or maybe it was another meeting that you and I were in earlier this week? There was a note that the configuration is broken in Intune. Did you mention that is no longer the case? Or am I mistaken?
No, it was not a configuration, but they had some issues on DO. Sandy was posting about that, and she worked with the Microsoft support team on this. And I got an update yesterday, or was it the day before? A tweet that was fixed now.
Oh, that was the same problem.
I do not know, but I heard that it was fixed. So I was like, all right, cool.
Got it. All right.
So,
excellent. Yeah, I did happen to see that. I wasn't sure if that was the same issue or not. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. What other questions do we have?
All right. So we did have a comment from Radu over here on YouTube. Amazing news on Cloud PKI with the Intune Suite. Was
Heck
struggling
yeah.
with implementing a public cert solution for Adobe Acrobat digital signatures. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the current scenario where you have something that you have to install on an on-premise server, and your devices are cloud-based, they're internet only. So now you need to have a connector and sync stuff that you have on premises up to the cloud and then down to the devices again. Whereas you just configure something that is on the cloud and be done with it. I guess the more challenging part is going to be organization who has like super tight requirements where they are tying their certificate-based platform to like specific hardware, and they want to have a offline root CA that is locked into a vault that is 3 miles deep in an ocean somewhere.
Yeah.
So that nobody can access it. Should I ever need to have to fish it up again? And
Yeah, that'll be a little bit of a challenge, I think.
so I'm very interested to learn more about
Yeah.
what this brings and when they will start to make it available. I haven't seen anything about that just yet.
Great stuff. Dan is asking here on YouTube, we're seeing inconsistency where the Windows Hello setup has been happening after autopilot finishes about a month ago. Now it seems to be stuck at the Windows login where the client has to log in again, but not all the time.
Yeah, I've seen a few notes here and there on Twitter about it, but I have no more info than that. I think that's going to be one of those lovely support cases that's going to take a while to get through.
All right.
If anyone happened to know or do have signed a case and are listening into our chat or stream, by all means, let us know, and we're happy to share that information.
Absolutely. All right. Matt's asking, Andrew, have you noticed on your Intune a device named just numbers and letters without a user assigned to it? If so, how do I know how this came into or joined Intune? That sounds to me like an autopilot imported device, if I'm understanding that question correctly.
Yeah, we can definitely see if there is an autopilot device in there.
So I don't know. Let me see if I've got anything that looks like that. No, right now I have all. Mine are all have their host names, even if they're host names coming from, an imaging solution like desktop or mini NT or something like that.
The only thing I can think of is like maybe a bulk and roll device or something like that that really doesn't have a user until there is one.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So now we will have to look into to see what that is. A lot of information you can get from Graph that you don't necessarily see in the user interface as well might give some clue to where that device came from. Audit logs is a good one as well. You can typically find information about who was creating a device in those. I'm guessing even the Azure audit logs, or sorry, Entra ID audit logs might give some clue on that one if there is a device that is in there as well.
Yeah, if you can find a similar object ID or some sort of ID that looks like what you're seeing there in the admin center.
Yeah.
Great idea. All right. Got a question here from Nick over on YouTube. I have been trying to chase down an issue on a handful of machines that are not requesting Windows, Office, third-party updates, and not being patched by SCCM. WUA handler.log hasn't been helpful. They used to get updates, but have just kind of drifted away from requiring them through SCCM. Any pointers of where to start to look for troubleshooting or to troubleshoot?
Well, yes. Let me share this one. Back in the days, for those of you that come from been around with ConfigMgr for a while, put it that way, you know that there was a gentleman with Microsoft, the documentation team, that maintained something called superflows, troubleshooting flow charts for a different type of scenario. Unfortunately, they stopped doing that. I don't know why, but they stopped. But as of recent, they've started to publish some of those up on the documentation page itself. So in terms of troubleshooting software updates for ConfigMgr, if you throw in a little ConfigMgr docs, it will take you right to that section. And they are now organized in like scenarios. Server-side synchronization, but also what happens on the client side. Basically, the order of things and what you should troubleshoot, what to look for where to put in log files, and how they should respond, etc. So I think the deployment one is probably the best. Because here you have the order of things, how it's supposed to be for different type of scenarios. So this one also helpful, or possibly helpful, on the client. So I would start here, if anything.
Alrighty. Great stuff. Radu is asking over here, is there a way to deploy an in-house APAC application which is not directly signed via Microsoft Store without enabling developer mode in Windows 11, maybe through side loading? Any ideas on that one?
No. I mean, I have been deploying Apex packages before using other technologies or custom Apex packages. I even wrote one myself for ViaMonstra a while ago, like a decade ago, when they were starting to become popular. And that one I was able to deploy through side loading mechanisms. So yeah, maybe that, but it's not something I have tried recently. I mean, pretty much anything you can, if you can find a way to install it manually from a PowerShell prompt or a command prompt in Windows, you can always package that up in an app in Intune and run it through a script or that way. But yeah, so maybe that. So anything else?
Right. There's a thank you from Nick for the documentation that you shared.
You're welcome.
Well, we've got a good 30 minutes left for more questions.
Yeah.
If we've got any out there.
Well, in the meantime, I can share another flow chart that I just stumbled across 2 years back, maybe. And I was just amazed about the quality of it. So the same concept here. The entire flow is there, from how a client is evaluating an application, what log files to look for and when, and what they expect to see in them, and
Johan,
reinterpret. Yeah.
what were you
Should I
sharing? There
share
you
the
go.
screen, you mean? Yeah. You have a point. I have to give you that. So this was the reference that I brought up. I was just searching for ConfigMgr application model troubleshooting, and here is a very similar flowchart to the WSUS one, where you will see like what the order things are happening on client, what log files to look for, what to find in those log files. You can track and follow what's going on, and then off to the next step. All right, how do you troubleshoot the actual download of the application? How do you find the content? And finally, okay, what about the installation? Yeah, this is supposed to be evaluated, and hopefully, it's just, I love this type of detailed, like drill down and behind the scenes and flowcharts. So if anyone from the ConfigMgr docs team is listening, I won't call you out, Aaron, but more of these, that would be nice. I have a feeling I'm going to get an angry email here.
Yeah, is your phone lighting up already?
Yeah. I'll just hand it over to one of the docs and say, here.
There you go. All right. Let's see. We did have a question come up from Dean over here on YouTube. Are there any recommendations around cloud radius solutions?
I have only seen third-party ones, and I have not used any of them. Oliver's company, Glicania, I think, has one, but I have not played around with it, so I do not know. But I mean, that's one of those other lovely scenarios. Okay, we want to get off hybrid. We're going to go cloud native, Azure AD, Entra ID only, and okay, we have radio service that we use for Wi-Fi access. So now we are stuck here. Well, there might be an option. You may find a cloud version of it that you can, even though it may not be available in Intune, that there are other vendors that have cloud services.
Mm-hmm.
It's like printers. We see a lot of organizations, they buying printer solutions, for example, like PaperCut, their cloud offerings, to be able to do better print management than maybe trying to go through somehow an old print server that you have on premises. So yeah, that possibly.
All right. We've got a question from over here on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, the name's not coming through. It just says LinkedIn user.
Oh, great.
But we applied Defender ASR audit mode only for application control in our environment. It wasn't too long afterwards we started hearing about users getting a 10-minute warning about a reboot, and then if they didn't reboot in those 10 minutes, it forces it. We had changed the assignment from all machines to none, and it is still occurring. This was done within Intune. This was an article we found, but it really doesn't give any info on how to fix it. This is the third day it had started, and being that it didn't correct itself, we feel we need some additional assistance. It's affecting about 1,800 users. Seems to be once a day, and while it does give a warning, the warning can come if someone's in the middle of something. That's okay. Lisa posted her name there. Thank you, Lisa. I'm racking my brain because the audit rules that I've applied have been the ones primarily in the built-in security baselines that you can find within Intune. So there's a set of maybe 10 or 15 ASR rules in there that you can deploy as in the baseline. They're either block or audit. And in deploying those across about as many devices, I have not seen that reboot myself. Now, that said, there could be different rules that you're applying, but at least in that set of them, I have not seen that issue. I don't have access to the Defender for Endpoint reports in my lab here, so I can't show anything. But there, if you go to security.microsoft.com and look at the reporting, there is some reporting for ASR rules. I'm not sure it's going to give you that detail that a reboot was required or not. But that would be the very, very first place that I'd look to see if there is any detail on that.
Well, I do have a demo tenant up with Defender. See if you can guide me where to click. I'll be happy to click.
So if you scroll down, let's see if it's there.
That I can do.
I've seen you do it. You're great at scrolling down.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
A little bit more. Right there, reports. And then, yep, your mouse was almost right there. Attack surface reduction rules.
I don't think I have any in this environment at all. No, I do not.
Yeah, so here it's referencing detections. So you might not have the restart information there, but another place that you might be able to look is Johan, earlier when we were talking about the device name for an Intune device, and you mentioned that maybe you could look into the audit logs, which may have more information. Similarly, on this side in Defender, this information is stored in log analytics, and you might be able to get a little bit more information out of the out of those logs. And actually, if you scroll up on the left side there, a little bit further, I think, if I recall correctly, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, under hunting, and then advanced hunting, that will allow you to run queries that will get you some more information about your ASR rules and how they're interacting in your environment. In fact, going through your audits and things like that, this is a place that I would get familiar with so that you can determine where I guess one example would be if you put something in audit mode and then you run some queries here, you can find exactly what is triggering a specific rule, whether it's an executable or a command being run or something along those lines. And so, Lisa, you may have a little bit more information in here. Unfortunately, I don't have any specifics on how to track down that reboot, but this may be helpful.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. Radu's asking, did any of you notice recently any settings catalog policies which can set default app associations? For example, changing the way PDF files are by default open with Edge to change that over to Adobe.
I don't see I have any updates on that in the settings catalog recently. See if I can find anything real quick. October update something. Configuration defaults CSP. Oh, maybe this one. But that was CSP. Scrap that. That is one of the settings catalog option.
All right, I just found it. I wanted to make sure I was right. I wanted to make sure I was right because we literally just talked about this in our customizing Windows 11 session at MMS.
Can I share your screen then?
Yes, please.
All right.
So, what you have to do, let me see, because I must have not. I literally created this setting. I remember creating the configuration profile on stage, and apparently I did not save it, past Andrew not being helpful. So,
well, the rumors are that session is actually coming to our academy in December.
I heard those same rumors. Look, there's proof right there. All right, so add settings, and then we can search for associations right here. So under application defaults, default associations configuration. The interesting thing about this is that, let me see if I can
run this. To apply that XML file that you have to do in the past, or is it different?
So you actually do have to create the XML file, but then you have to base64 encode the XML file and then paste that base64 encoded XML file into this little text box here.
Yeah, it's simple and intuitive.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. So let's see here if this works real quick. If I go, let's try this. And then if I go to ctemp associations, so we get this XML file right here. Take this.
Memorize quickly.
That's right. Did you have enough time? Go and we can go to a website or even using PowerShell, base64 encode. Then copy this. Then go back over here. Then paste it.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
No, Radu says he's tried with the base64 encoding, but it's still not working. That is... no, I'm sorry. This is the only way that I know how to do that on the Intune side. But yes, not quite intuitive. One thing I would double check, this is simple, and I only bring it up not because I think anyone else would make the mistake, but I've made it myself. Copying, pasting, make sure there's not a space at the beginning or the end or something like that. Just after staring at files like this and long strings like this, it's easy to miss something like a space. Someday, Johan, these settings will be so simple. Yeah, Copilot will configure them for us.
I hear you. I just stumbled across a good old post from Paul Winstanley over at his blog, It's not the same, but I remember this, where you how to disable that little lovely nagging box. Just an edge policy for it. Doesn't set the association, but at least it stops asking for things. So this one here.
Good tip.
I mean, stuff like this drives me complete bonkers. An enterprise OS installing stuff that I do not want, showing me 45 different welcome screens when I install a browser, update a browser, and newsfeed right at my face. And no, shut up, quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be the default.
Be
It's cool
quiet.
that the feature exists, but I would like to enable them.
Yes, exactly.
That's my rant on Windows for the day.
Good. Good
Yeah.
question. Good related question here from Dan. You didn't like Windows backup? It's just
No, I did not like Windows backup.
just popping up on everyone's device last month.
Yep. That was a good notification per se. It's good to have a backup, but maybe not on enterprise devices.
Well, especially because funny thing is, you can't even use it with an enterprise account right now. You can open it up and try to log in. It'll say, "Oh, nope, sorry, you can't use this," and that's it.
Yeah, great.
So it looks like. Let me see if I have a picture of that. Yeah, there we go. See if I can bring up trusty old Paint.
Paint is good. Gonna draw the picture or gonna paste it?
I was going to paste it. Paste it off screen first to make sure it pastes correctly. There we go. So this is what happens when you open it on an enterprise device. But you can't turn it on or off anyways. So they have said that there are controls coming in the future.
Yeah.
No, I will take no further questions on what future means.
All right.
All right. Speaking of questions, it does look like we had a couple come in here while we were chatting about that. Another one, I think this one is from Lisa as well. New builds are landing on the login screen. We noticed this on new builds for new users. After user enters the login and MFA, it lands on the enrollment status page and then the user profile loading screen. We noticed during user profile loading that we ended up with a login screen to enter our Global Protect password, our VPN software with other user option. I have not had the pleasure, it sounds like, of working with that VPN software popping up a prompt like that.
No, me neither. I mean, we have a few customers using it, but it's not something I have seen.
Right. Oh, she said that was incomplete. All right. Well, if you've got some more there, Lisa, we'll keep an eye out for that. But we've got a couple of other questions here that we can get to, I think. Kurt's asking, when installing the company portal from the new store, does this UWP app use Trusted Installer the way Win32 apps does? If so, would that compete or step on with other Win32 apps in autopilot during the technician flow, or should we wrap company portal as a Win32 app? Any blog post suggestions on how to add it as a Win32 app?
The only way I know about the install there is it's using the same libraries as Winget is using to install the new store apps. There is a flow in which applications are being installed through the ESP page. I think Nehaus blogged about that recently. He was using that technique to install something first in that sequence. So I wonder if store apps would actually be installed before the normal Win32 apps are being applied. Because if it is like it was back in when you used to mix the line of business MSI apps with Win32 apps, and they would actually install or try to install at the same time, because one was using the IME agent, the other ones weren't, that they just crashed into each other. I do not know if that's the case with the new store applications, if you mix and match those with Win32 apps. My thinking is that would have been a widespread problem. We would probably have known it by now, because company portal is one of the most commonly installed apps for Intune customers. But I don't know for sure if it may come in conflict with Win32 apps. I found a Reddit thread that claims you can combine them. Basically saying Microsoft recommend not mixing line of business in Win32. We knew that one already, but you can mix store apps with Win32 for company portal and package apps. So that's sounds like it will work.
All right. Well, Kurt, if you give it a try and you get to see that through to completion, we'd love to hear what you find out.
Yep. Yes, please.
Right.
I saw another user confirming the same thing. They deployed the company portal as well as a couple of Win32 apps during autopilot without any issues. Same thread. So it's in the Intune subreddit. So
Okay. All right. It looks like back to Lisa's question about during user profile loading, we get to the login screen to enter a VPN with the other user option. The user will enter their credentials, and then the machine loops back to the login screen. Yeah, I think for me, I haven't encountered that situation, and just having that additional login pop up. Anything you've come across, Johan?
no, sir. Unfortunately not.
Right. And of course, I know we've said it a couple times already, but if anybody else has come across that or anything, feel free to drop it in the chat, and we will share it as well. All right. Dan over on YouTube has a question. So I have a question about sub-IT groups that no one at Microsoft has been able to answer. With scope tags, you can use admin units. You can use admin units that and make the groups in Entra, but not in Intune, but then can't assign them. You have to update scope groups to let them assign apps and policies to those created groups.
Well, it's not something I have an idea about, but also the two of us, I'm not the role-based access guru. You are. So
Well, and I haven't. Shame to say it, truthfully, because it's been on my list for a while. Especially with the question you were asking recently, I haven't played around with admin units too much, so I'm not very familiar with that aspect. Mostly the side of Intune that's similar to Configuration Manager role-based access, where you do have the scope tags and the scope groups and stuff like that. So they don't have access to those groups in Intune, but with admin units, they can control them in Entra. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan. I think with the administrative unit piece in there, I'm not the best one to ask. Dean asked a question here. Most unused feature. Admin units are just not something we use. They're one of those things that, again, I mean, I haven't used them much myself, but I keep seeing them referenced. So it's one of those. I don't know how widely they're used, but I definitely feel like I'm missing out on something at the moment. But then you can run into these issues that I think Dan is seeing, where you can use them and they work in the Entra Admin Center, but they're having an inconsistent experience on the Intune side of things. Yeah. With the holiday coming up, I don't want to promise anything for next week. But this is something that I do want to look into. So let me make a note to myself here. I will
maybe
give
admin unit demo coming up at some point.
yes, and if I get a good enough information, heck, I'll even write a blog post on it.
Oh, that's love for the community right there.
Well, let's see if my if they say actions speak louder than words. So let's see if I can actually get something out of that. It's a great question, Dan. I wish that I had more to tell you on the admin unit side, but I'll see if I can over the next couple of weeks try out a couple of things.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions out there? Still have a. No, we have not. we are up on time. Wow. I don't know what happened to the last 20 minutes, but they
that flew by. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the many good questions, and We'll hope to see you both back in a week from now. So have a great rest of your day and enjoy the festivities next week.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.